Hey guys, tonight we will hear a dramatic story from the land of pyramids and pharaohs, the most horrific sexual practices of ancient Egypt. This tale unfolds in a time when gods were worshipped through acts that today would be deemed unspeakable. A world of sacred incest, temple rituals, embalmed bodies touched by the living, and punishments that will make your skin crawl. You will never imagine that this terrible thing could happen. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It begins with you standing at the edge of the Nile in the year 1305 BCE, at the peak of Egypt's imperial glory. The reeds sway softly in the breeze, whispering secrets of ancient gods. You are not merely a traveler. You are Kemet, a trusted servant of the high priestess of Hathor. Born in Thebes, educated in the hidden ways of temple rites. Your hands have touched papyrus inked with forbidden knowledge. But tonight, you are on a mission that will challenge everything you believe. Thebes glows in twilight. Temples rise like golden fangs against the darkening sky. You walk with purpose, sandals silent on the warm stone as you pass worshippers leaving the temple of Karnak. Inside your satchel is a sealed scroll bearing the order from Pharaoh Seti I. Himself investigate the troubling rumors emerging from Dendera's temple of Hathor. Whispers of blood rituals, of girls who vanish, of sacred rites that seem to please no god but the flesh. You do not travel alone. Beside you rides Meru, a junior scribe with eyes too curious for his own safety. Behind him is Tepi, a seasoned bodyguard who speaks little, but whose blade is rarely sheathed without reason. And then there is Anen, the priest-turned-defector, who once led ceremonies in Hathor's name, but fled after seeing what lay behind the sacred veil. The goddess loves pleasure, Anen mutters under his breath, as you board the felucca headed south. But her temple, it twists love into torment. The boat glides down the black river, moonlight shimmering like a trail of spirits. Meru opens his scrolls, trying to decipher the older language of the pyramid texts, hoping to find clues in myths too ancient to be understood. You sleep fitfully that night, head resting on rolled linen. Your dreams show a golden woman whose eyes are gouged out, arms outstretched as masked priests chant and circle. When you awake, the temple is in sight. Dendera rises like a beast carved from sandstone. Columns topped with Hathor's face gaze down in serene judgment. You step onto the riverbank, heart pounding. The air is thick with incense and something else, something coppery and sour. A priestess in translucent white robes awaits you. Her name is Nerit, and her beauty is disarming. Her eyes meet yours, unblinking. The goddess has summoned you, she says softly. Enter. Within the temple, torchlight flickers over murals that depict not just fertility, but domination, restraint, and ritualized acts that seem too intimate to be public art. In one corner, a woman kneels before a golden bull, eyes rolled back. In another, a man is bound, his skin carved with hieroglyphs, while a veiled priestess sits atop him, hands to the sky. You follow Nerit into a side chamber. It's cooler here, almost damp. Statues of Hathor flank the walls, each carved with exaggerated curves and knowing smiles. Nerit kneels before one and presses a tile on the floor. The stone grinds open to reveal stairs descending into blackness. Meru hesitates. The scroll said nothing about underground sanctuaries. Anan scoffs. That's because what happens down there is not meant for papyrus. But you descend. The air changes. It smells like myrrh sweat and the unmistakable scent of human waste. Torches flicker in iron sconces revealing chambers with stone beds, manacles, and effigies. One wall is painted with the 7 sacred positions of union, each watched by a god, each dripping in blood-colored paint. This is not worship, Meru breathes. This is performance. Nerit smiles. The gods do not distinguish. In the final chamber you hear it muffled cries, rhythmic chanting, the sharp crack of something striking flesh. Tepi reaches for his blade. You stop him with a glance. You must understand first. Behind a curtain of beaded lapis you see them. Masked priests and priestesses moving in circles around a young woman no older than 15. Her wrists are bound with lotus garlands. A figure in leopard skin, the high priest of Hathor, raises a carved ivory staff and chants in a dialect even Anan does not recognize. They call it the rite of union. Anan whispers. They believe Hathor herself enters the body of the girl through torment. You feel bile rising in your throat, but you say nothing, not yet. Later that night, Nerit offers you a room in the upper sanctum. You refuse. Instead, you stay near the river with your companions. Anan warns you, if they learn why you're truly here, you won't leave Dendera alive. You know he's right. The temple may be sacred by decree, but what hides beneath its stones is older than law, and darker. In the moonlight, Meru quietly unrolls a final scroll, an untranslated fragment from the time of Akhenaten. It speaks of a forgotten cult within Hathor's priests, who believed true divinity could only be achieved through the ecstatic pain of others. That the goddess demanded not just offerings, but obedience of the flesh. You do not sleep that night. In the darkness, the chants echo in your ears, and you begin to wonder, what if the goddess truly does watch? And what if this horror is her will? The first rays of sunlight turn the sandstone of Dendera to a soft rose. But there's no warmth in your bones. You haven't slept. You sit beside the Nile, watching its dark waters roll lazily by, wondering how many secrets have been swallowed beneath its surface. You glance at your companions, Meru silent and pale, Tepi sharpening his blade with short, angry strokes, and Anan pacing like a man who's seen a ghost and knows it won't leave. The girl, Meru mutters finally. She didn't resist. Why didn't she scream louder? She was trained, Anan says grimly, from childhood, picked from the house of life, chosen for beauty, then broken for obedience. You look down at your hands. They are the same hands that once held sacred texts, the same hands that once touched the foreheads of orphans in blessing, and now they tremble. You've seen cruelty in the name of the gods before, forced marriages, temple prostitutes, even the quiet horror of child sacrifice in desert outposts. But this was something else. Still, the Pharaoh has tasked you with uncovering the truth, and truth must be peeled back like linen from a mummy. Carefully, layer by layer. At midday, you return to the temple. Nerit awaits you at the gates, her expression unreadable. I hope your rest was peaceful, she says with a tilt of her head that feels like mockery. You force a smile. The goddess gave me much to reflect upon. She leads you through the central hall this time, where columns bloom with blue and gold hieroglyphs, telling tales of Hathor's joy-bringing love. a lie etched in stone. Worshippers gather in the atrium singing hymns, and yet behind their chanting, you hear it again, the soft rhythmic thud from below. You glance at Anan. His jaw tightens. In the hall of offerings, the high priest appears. His name is Panefer, a tall man draped in robes too rich for humility. His eyes are lined with kohl, his lips smiling but never warm. "Word reached me of your visit," he says, bowing slightly. "It is always a pleasure to host emissaries of Thebes. I come to observe," you reply, "to learn the deeper rituals of the goddess." Pharaoh desires a report on all temple practices for his royal archives. Panefer nods slowly. "Then you will see everything. But I must warn you, Hathor's mysteries are not easily understood by those who dwell in logic. I do not dwell in logic, you say evenly. I dwell in devotion." He smiles wider. "Then tonight you shall be honored." The rest of the day is a blur of prepared faces and carefully staged piety. You are shown the sacred cows in their pens, led through gardens of lotus and pomegranate, even allowed to copy inscriptions from the Book of the Heavenly Cow. All distractions. But it's in the archives, a room sealed with bronze, that you find the first real clue. While Meru distracts the scribe, you examine a scroll half hidden behind tax records. It's brittle, its edges curled with age. And unlike the others, it's not written in the script of state. It's in the private code of the ancient priesthood symbols that predate even the pyramid texts. You trace the lines. One symbol repeats often, a woman with her arms chained, surrounded by 7 stars. A different Hathor. One the public doesn't see. Anan leans over your shoulder. "They called her Hathor of the Veil," he says quietly. "She was not the goddess of joy. She was the goddess of surrender." What kind of surrender, you ask? The kind that strips the self. Body, mind, and soul. The next symbol chills your blood, the sacred embalmer's knife. It appears in a passage next to the names of priestesses, each marked with a sign of mutilation. They made offerings of themselves, Anan says. Bits of skin, flesh, even tongues, Tepi growls appearing behind you. One of the kitchen boys says the high priestess has no tongue. Cut it out herself as an act of devotion. You step away from the scroll. We need to get deeper. Whatever's happening here, it's not just a cult. It's organized, protected, possibly even spread to other temples. But going deeper means participating. Watching will no longer be enough. That evening, Nerit comes for you again. "This way," she says. "You will witness the mirror rite." You're led through a corridor carved with erotic imagery, men and women gods and animals, all interwoven in acts meant to shock. The air smells of myrrh, cinnamon, and something more primal. The moment you step through the final curtain, the temperature rises. Dozens of figures line the circular chamber, all masked, all dressed in silk and linen, barely clinging to flesh. The altar is a polished bronze mirror, waist-high, lit by flame. A girl kneels before it, nude, her reflection trembling. She cannot be more than 13. 2 older women smear her skin with oils, murmuring blessings. "Do not interfere," Nerit whispers, as if reading your mind. "To do so would dishonor the goddess and mark you as unclean." You clench your jaw. You will not act. Not yet. Panefer enters his mask, bearing the face of a bull. He begins to chant the same phrases from the night before. Others join. The girl's head bows lower. Her back is striped with old scars. The rite begins. It lasts for hours. Your companions avert their eyes. Tepi's hand never leaves his hilt. Meru is white as a shroud. When it ends, the girl is carried away, her face blank, her reflection burned into your mind. You return to your quarters silent. The scrolls lie untouched. The Nile whispers outside a dark lullaby. You finally speak. This has to end. But how Meru whispers. The priests are protected by law. They call this holy. Then we unmake it holy, you say. You rise, shoulders square. The temple has shown you its darkest face. Now it must see yours. The torches outside your quarters sputter in the windless air. Within the room feels like a sealed tomb. No breeze stirs. No voices speak. Only the dull echo of memory, the chants, the oil, the bronze mirror, the girl's glassy stare. It repeats in your mind like a ritual of its own. Tepi leans against the doorframe, arms crossed. Say the word, and I'll put my blade through that bull-masked bastard's throat. No, you say flatly. Not yet. If we strike too soon, we vanish quietly, permanently. They'll say we drowned, or slipped, or were claimed by the goddess. Meru sits cross-legged, parchment in hand. We need proof. Not words. Not rumors. Scrolls. Witnesses. Something that will shame them before the court at Memphis. Anan shakes his head. No one will speak. Every mouth here is sewn shut by fear or faith. Maybe both, but you see it clearly now. Dendera is not just a temple. It is a trap. One that lures girls into sanctity and carves devotion into their skin. You will not leave without tearing open its heart. You gather them closer and lower your voice. Tomorrow night they'll perform what Anan called the Night of Breathless Song. A rite held once every season, always in secret, always underground. And always Anan mutters, sealed with the blood of a virgin and the silence of the gods. We infiltrate it. Meru swallows hard. That's suicide. Only if we're caught. You look to Anan. Can you get us in? He hesitates, then nods. There's an access tunnel beneath the papyrus archives, used by initiates too impure to enter through the sanctum. How fitting, Tepi says with a crooked smile. By dawn, the plan is set. Anan will distract the novice priestesses by feigning a relapse into spiritual delirium, an act convincing enough to draw attention away from the sealed corridor. Meanwhile, you, Meru, and Tepi will slip beneath the temple using the smuggler's passage once used by black market scribes. But before that, you must secure a key, and for that you return to Nerit. She greets you in a perfumed garden reclining beneath a sycamore tree sacred to Hathor. Her eyes flick to you with familiar coolness. You return quickly, Kemet. I am devoted, you reply. Last night's rite awakened questions. Questions, she says, are knives with no hilts, dangerous to hold. I want to serve, truly, not as a visitor, but as an initiate. She studies you. Few men request that honor. I'm not most men. A long silence. Then she rises. There is an object I must retrieve for tomorrow's rite. A key, given only to those deemed worthy. If I bring you, you must understand there is no leaving after. You lower your head. I understand. She leads you through the upper sanctum again, but this time past the murals and incense burners into a hidden alcove. She chants a verse in ancient tongue words that make your skin crawl, and presses her hand to a sun-shaped relief in the wall. It opens. Inside is a small chamber with a single alabaster box. She lifts the lid reverently, and inside lies a carved bone key, pale-ridged, and in the shape of an ankh. She places it into your palm. It opens the gate to the breathless chamber, she whispers. Do not lose it. Do not copy it. And do not dare enter unless called. The goddess is cruel to the uninvited. That night, as the temple winds down and priests withdraw to meditation, you gather your companions. You place the key on the stone table between you. Meru stares at it like it might speak. That little thing could save a dozen lives, or doom us all. Both, maybe, you murmur. Anand lights the small oil lamp. We go now. The archives are silent. By torchlight, Anand finds the hidden slab in the floor and pries it open. A waft of cold air rises heavy with mold and old incense. The tunnel below is narrow, barely high enough to crouch. It stinks of wet stone and rat droppings. You descend first, the others close behind. Each step downward feels like entering a deeper ring of some forgotten underworld. After nearly 100 paces, the tunnel widens. A heavy stone door blocks the path, no handle, no hinges. You press the key into a small, sun-shaped socket, mimicking Nerat's motion. It groans open, and what lies beyond steals your breath. The chamber of breathless song. It is vast, larger than any inner sanctum you've seen. Circular with a domed ceiling, painted like the night sky. Braziers burn in corners, but the light is subdued like a dream you can't quite wake from. Pillars rise wrapped in scarlet cloth. Chains hang from some. At the center lies a black stone dais slick with something dark and fresh. Figures in black masks kneel around the circle. You count 13. At the edge of the room, a line of girls naked, blindfolded, trembling, await their fate. One by one, they are brought forward. The ceremony is not hurried. Every movement is deliberate. Each gesture part of some liturgy lost to sane men. There is no pleasure here. No true ecstasy. Only domination disguised as worship. You document everything etched quickly into wax tablets Meru brought beneath his robes. Symbols, motions, names whispered behind masks. Then, you hear her, a girl sobbing. They slap her, but the sound echoes strangely, bouncing back toward your hiding place. You freeze. One of the priests lifts his head, sniffs. You hear it in his breath, suspicion. You signal. Time to go. Tepi moves first, dagger drawn. Meru slips the tablets into his satchel. You backtrack swiftly through the tunnel, heart pounding. Behind you, voices rise. They've found your scent. As you emerge into the archive, Anand slams the stone shut. Move, he hisses. You scatter. Back in your chamber, you douse the lamp and sit in silence, breathing hard. But you have it. Proof. The rites are real. Tomorrow you will send Meru north with the evidence. But tonight, you pray to gods you no longer trust, that the priests do not come in the dark. You wake to the sound of drumming. Not the festive open-air rhythms of celebration, but something slower, heavier, like the heartbeat of a dying god. It echoes through the sandstone walls of your quarters and into your chest. Tepi is already up, sword in hand, crouched by the shuttered window. They know he mutters. You sit upright. Are you sure he doesn't answer? He doesn't need to. From the courtyard below, you hear shouting, controlled, authoritative. Temple guards likely summoned before sunrise. That's never a good sign in Egypt. People vanish in early light, buried before breakfast. Meru bursts in, face flushed with panic. Anan's gone. What do you mean gone, you ask? Not in his room. Not at the archives. His bed was undisturbed, like he never came back. You clutch the edge of the stone bench. They took him. Tepi snarls. Should have left last night. No, you snap standing. Not without sending the tablets north. Meru swallows hard. Then I leave today. At noon. Quietly. You nod. The docks. Use the papyrus merchant's vessel he owes me. Take the tablets. Ride hard. Don't stop until Thebes. Tepi grips your arm. You're not coming. Not yet. We don't know what they've done with Anan. I won't abandon him. He holds your gaze. For a moment it feels like you're still a priest, still in control. But that's a lie. You're no longer Kemet the Learned. Your prey stalked in sacred shadows. The rest of the morning passes like a funeral procession. You don your ceremonial robe still stained from last night's descent and rejoin the temple's surface rituals. Nerit finds you beside the statue of Hathor, suckling Horus, her smile as serene as the goddess's carved face. There's unease in the air, she says. You feel it too. I dreamed of fire, you lie. And bulls with broken horns. She nods slowly. A warning dream. The goddess often speaks that way. You risk it. And Anan, her face remains unreadable. Left at dawn. Claimed he had urgent business in Abydos. Didn't even pack. You pretend to be surprised. Odd. Very, she murmurs. She's lying. She knows you know. And now it's a game of breath and timing. By midday, you say your goodbyes to Meru, each word masked as casual farewell, each gesture a blessing in disguise. He hugs you far too long for comfort, and you feel the tablets pressed against your back for the briefest second before he tucks them into his satchel. Tepi walks with him to the docks. You return to the upper sanctum and wait. The afternoon heat presses in, making the air feel thick like it's trying to drown you. The temple seems quieter than usual. Too quiet. Priests pass in pairs now. Eyes watch from every shadow. You duck into the library for refuge. There you find Nerit waiting. You've been exploring, she says softly. You nod cautiously. Is that forbidden? Not at all. But it's rare for a man to go so deep without being touched by the goddess. You still seem untouched. You feel the air tighten. Perhaps she finds me unworthy. She finds everyone worthy eventually. She steps closer. You smell the lotus oil on her skin, the metallic scent beneath it. Do you want to see her Kemet, the true face of Hathor? You try to sound curious. I thought I already had. She smiles. No. What you saw was the mask. Tonight you'll see the flesh. She places a small token in your palm, a polished obsidian scarab. Its underside is carved with an image so crude, it almost doesn't register as sacred, a woman giving birth, while shackled, surrounded by masked figures bearing knives and amphorae. Bring this to the eastern vault after moonrise, she whispers. Alone. Then she vanishes. You stagger into the colonnade, trying not to shake. What does it mean? Another rite, another horror masked as divinity. Tepi finds you before sunset. Meru's gone. Boat left. No tail. I watched. Relief nearly buckles your knees. Good. Then we have hope. Hope won't save us from what's coming, Tepi says darkly. They'll try to bind you tonight. Mark you. Then I need to see what they show me. Get inside it. All the way. You're walking into a trap. I know you say. But I have to spring it from the inside. That night you go alone to the eastern vault. The scarab opens the gate. Inside darkness, pure and suffocating. Only the sound of your breathing. Then torches flare. The chamber is round walls painted not with gods, but with scenes of brutal devotion. Women branded with sigils, men castrated before veiled idols, infants held over braziers. These are not the teachings of the temple. These are the buried roots of something ancient and monstrous. Neret stands at the center, masked. Other figures circle her 6 priestesses robed in crimson. The 7th steps forward. You freeze. It's Anan. Bare-chested face, slack wrists bound in linen. A crude symbol etched into his forehead. He refused, the goddess Nerite says. Now he belongs to her forever. She raises a dagger ivory and flaked with blood. You lunge, but hands seize you from the dark. Dozens. They pin your arms, your legs. The torchlight dances across Anan's wide, terrified eyes as the blade touches his throat. And then just before the cut, a cry. Steel sings, Tepi. He bursts through the curtain blade, flashing like lightning. The hands holding you fall away in panic. Screams erupt. One priestess drops blood blooming across her chest. You grab Anan, hauling him upright. Move, Tepi yells. Together you flee back through the labyrinth, into the garden, into the Nile fog. Behind you, the temple bell tolls, a sound not of prayer, but of war. The night swallows you. You don't remember how long you ran, only the sting of sand in your eyes, the heavy limp of Anan's half-dead weight, and Tepi's grunts with every blow he struck to clear your passage. The gardens became ruins. The ruins became desert. You only stopped when your legs gave out beneath the skeleton of an abandoned granary, its cracked walls yawning like the mouth of some long-dead beast. Now you sit in the shadows, soaked in sweat and blood, your lungs clawing for breath. Tepi paces the room, sword-drawn ears tuned to the silence outside. They're sweeping the outer districts. I saw their torches on the ridge. You crouch over Anan. He lies in a daze, lips twitching with fever. The mark on his forehead is raw, the blood crusted. They drugged him, you mutter. Tepi looks down at the branded flesh, or cursed him. You pour water onto a strip of linen and dab Anan's face. His eyes flicker. His voice is hoarse when it finally comes. They made me. Watch, he rasps. Who, you ask? He doesn't answer. His gaze goes far away. Tepi shakes his head. He's broken. No, you say he's still in there. And we need him. Whatever he saw, they meant for it to be final. A warning. Maybe worse, you sit beside him whispering his name again and again until his eyes finally fix on yours. They call it the womb of the cow, he says. What is that, the final rite, he gasps. No priest may leave Dendera unless they've witnessed it. No initiate ever survives it. You glance at Tepi. What did you see? Anan's body trembles. They took her apart. Who a girl, just a girl. But they treated her like a passage, like she was a doorway to Hathor's belly. You feel your stomach twist. What do you mean took her apart? He shudders. Cut her open, step by step, but not to kill, to open. They said the goddess would enter her when her womb was most exposed, when the pain made the boundary between flesh and spirit collapse. Tepi curses under his breath and moves to the door. I need air. You're shaking, not just with horror, but with purpose. And they do this regularly. Only when they choose a vessel, Anan whispers. Someone pure, obedient, bred from the lines of priests and kings. They claim it grants visions, prophecies. That's how they control pharaohs. It makes sense now. Why so many rulers bowed to the temple's suggestions. Why edicts seemed to appear out of nowhere, backed by visions no one could refute. They were manufactured, extracted from agony. You grip Anan's hand. You survived it. That means we can stop it. He nods barely. Tepi returns, face tight. They're closing the docks. No one goes in or out without temple seals. Which means Meru made it out just in time, you say. But it also means we're trapped. No, Tepi says, his voice lower. I know one other way. You blink. Where he looks away. There's a tomb beneath Dendera, older than the temple. The locals call it the Cat's Eye, a back entrance for when the temple was still rising. It connects to the priestess's chambers. How do you know about it? Tepi's jaw tightens. Because I helped bury a girl who died there years ago, one of their vessels. I was just a guard back then. Thought it was medicine. Thought it was holy. You nod slowly. Then that's our path. The next day you wait until dusk. When the city hums with dusk prayers, you move like ghosts. Wrapped in stolen robes, faces smeared with charcoal and dust, you follow Tepi through the crumbling bones of old granaries and forgotten storage rooms. At last you find it a narrow shaft beneath a collapsed well sealed with a rusted iron grate. Tepi pries it open with his dagger. The smell that rises is ancient. Dry rot, ash, bones. You drop inside. The tunnel is pitch black. You light a single oil lamp, its flame casting long shadows across the stone. The walls are covered in half-erased glyphs, older than hieratic, older even than the common gods. Snakes twisted into wombs. Women stitched with stars. Eyes drawn where navels should be. Tepi goes first. Then Anan limping. Then you. The tunnel spirals downward. You pass burial alcoves, dozens of them. Small skeletons, child-sized, many with their arms crossed over their chests, some missing skulls. You move faster. The tunnel begins to rise again and finally opens into a low chamber carved into the very root of the temple. And there you find it, the Cat's Eye, a circular hole in the ceiling high above, just wide enough to climb. The air is warm, faintly perfumed. You're beneath the priestess's quarters, but something else catches your eye. To the left, behind a veil of cobwebs, lies a door, unsealed, fresh footprints in the dust. You open it. Inside a room like none you've seen before. Stone slabs smeared with chalk and ochre. Drawings carved into the walls, diagrams of human anatomy intertwined with planetary charts and divine symbols. And in the center, a basin filled with something dark and thick. Blood or something like it. On the far side is a scroll, Unfurling it, you read the ceremony of the shattered veil. It is the final confirmation, a written rite, instructions on how to break a vessel and summon Hathor's seed of prophecy. Anen moans behind you. They'll do it soon. The equinox. It's the sacred night. How long do we have, Tepi asks. You check the sky through the cat's eye above. 2 nights. 2 nights until the girl is chosen. 2 nights until the womb of the cow opens again. The temple stirs above, oblivious to the eyes watching from below. You lie beneath the cat's eye, cloaked in stale linen and fear. The scroll from the shattered veil ritual rests folded in your satchel, its words burning into your memory. On the equinox, the flesh shall break, and the spirit shall open. The vessel must be untouched of pure voice and sacred blood. Tepi paces like a panther. His rage has found no home, no outlet. Only the promise of action gives him purpose. Anen sleeps restlessly, whispering the names of the dead. You crouch by the wall, tracing the outline of the priestess quarters above. We'll need disguises again. High clearance. If we're caught once more, we won't be. Tepi growls. I'll slit throats before they sound the alarm. No killing unless necessary, you say firmly. If we want to expose this to the pharaoh, we need witnesses, not just bodies. He doesn't like it, but he doesn't argue. Later that morning, you return to the surface. Disguised in acolyte robes stolen from a burial rack, you blend with the lower priests preparing for the equinox vigil. The courtyard bustles, floral garlands strung between columns, sacred cows being bathed and painted, temple musicians rehearsing flutes and harps. The air carries a strange energy, celebratory, expectant, and ominous. You spot Nerit leading 2 young girls toward the sanctum, their hands bound in silk. Your stomach turns. She smiles as she passes, and for a brief moment, her eyes flicker toward you. Recognition, or just coincidence. You duck into the Hall of Hymns. Inside you find a familiar face, Seta, a low-ranking servant you once healed from scorpion fever years ago in Thebes. He doesn't recognize you at first, not until you grip his wrist and whisper his name. By the Nile, he gasps. What are you? I need your help. Quietly. He pulls you behind a statue of Bes, god of protection. They said you vanished. They think you drowned. That's the story they'll tell again, if I fail. You explain quickly what you've seen, what's coming. Seta's face turns pale. They've locked the inner archives, he whispers. No one allowed past the oil chamber except priestesses. Then get me a robe, you say. I need to walk where they walk. Seta hesitates. They'll know. Not if you distract them. That night, beneath the veil of incense and night hymns, you move again. Dressed as a novice priestess, head shaved, veil drawn low, you slip through the sanctum with the silent confidence of someone who knows the floor plan in their bones. You pass 3 guards, each barely glancing at you. You enter the oil chamber. The air here is thick with myrrh and rosewater. Dozens of vessels line the walls, each labeled with celestial symbols. And near the far altar, a table draped in scarlet linen. Upon it lies the new scroll. You snatch it, eyes darting to the door, and begin reading. It's a list, a selection record, with names, lineages, bloodline, purity scores, and sacred attributes. It's how they choose their vessels. Every girl is assessed, judged, bred like livestock. And at the bottom of the scroll, your breath halts. One name is circled in red ochre. Neferura, age 12, daughter of Meru scribe of Thebes, status voice intact, virginity confirmed, royal blood maternal, chosen for equinox rite. The world spins, Meru's daughter, your friend, your ally. You grip the table until your knuckles ache. He never mentioned her, never spoke her name, but now it all makes sense. Why he came, why he offered to leave first, why he never looked back when he boarded the merchant's boat. He came to protect her, and now she's in their hands. Tepi waits in the garden when you return, cloak drawn. She's the vessel, you say. Humeru's child, Neferura. Tepi's jaw tightens. We get her out. Tonight. Too soon, you reply. They'll expect fear. We need to move during the rite itself. That's when their attention splinters. Anand speaks for the first time in hours. They'll drug her, bind her. Cut the tongue first, it silences the scream and purifies the song. You nod grimly. Then we stop it before the blade falls. Tepi touches your shoulder. If we fail, we don't, you snap. You spend the next day preparing. Seta sneaks in sacrificial knives, cords of braided flax, a vial of scorpion venom, your backup, if you need to silence a priest permanently. Anand carves protective sigils onto linen strips and ties them around his arms, his fingers trembling. By nightfall, the temple gathers in solemn procession. Candles line the steps. Bells chime with every heartbeat. The equinox rite begins. Hidden in the crowd, you watch as the high priest Panefer emerges wearing the mask of the bull god. Nerit follows veiled, her arms streaked in crimson paint, and behind them limp and swaying walks Neferura. Her eyes are wide but not empty. Not yet. She sees everything. And when her gaze finds yours, masked, veiled, lost in a sea of acolytes, you swear her lips move. Help me. You slip away before the doors close, back into the tomb, through the cat's eye, one final time. The cat's eye breathes you in once more. You climb in silence, one hand wrapped around the dagger concealed beneath your robe, the other clutching the scroll that marked Neferura for ritual slaughter. Behind you, Tepi moves like a shadow, every footstep placed with surgical precision. Anand follows last, his gait unsteady, but his face strangely calm, as if walking toward fate rather than from it. Above the temple hums. The equinox rite is reaching its peak. Drums throb through the stone. 100 voices chant in unison, calling the goddess into flesh. You feel it in your ribs, your teeth, your blood. It is not music. It is manipulation sound designed to break the will. Tepi grunts as he lifts himself into the sanctum's underchamber. We go up through the drainage shaft, into the womb chamber. You nod. If we're lucky, they've already begun. Their eyes will be on the girl. Anand speaks without looking at either of you. They always begin with water, a bath of honey and milk. Then the first cut, a shallow slit along the abdomen to mark the veil. The vessel must bleed beneath the moonlight, but not die. Not yet. His voice is too calm, too practiced. You glance at him. You performed it, didn't you? He nods once. Years ago. I believed it then. Believed that pain was passage, that the scream made gods listen, and now I know it just feeds monsters. You climb in silence. When you emerge into the womb chamber, the heat hits you first. The air is thick with incense and blood, the scent cloying and metallic. Dozens of masked priestesses stand in a wide circle, swaying. At the center lies the obsidian altar, its surface slick. Neferura is bound there, her limbs pulled outward, her small chest rising and falling in frantic bursts. Her mouth is gagged with silk, her eyes dart wildly. Panifer stands above her, arms raised. His voice trembles with zeal. O Hathor, who rules the 9 mouths and 7 wounds, enter the child of sacred blood and make her womb your throne. Neret approaches with the ceremonial blade, a crescent of white stone soaked in oil. Your time is now. Tepi moves first. He throws the first blade and it strikes a priestess in the shoulder. She crumples before her scream even begins. Panic ripples through the chamber as the chanting breaks. You surge forward, dagger flashing, cutting through the veil of bodies. Anen knocks over a brazier, flames licking up the wall. Smoke coils across the floor. You reach the altar. Neret turns on you, her eyes wild. You dare interrupt communion, you don't answer. You slam your forearm into her chest, knocking her backward, and slash through the silk binding, Neferura's arms. She writhes, gasping when the gag falls away. Breathe, child, you whisper. You're safe now. But you're not. A horn bellows from the outer courtyard. Guards! Tepi hurls a fallen priest into the path of 2 approaching sentinels. No time to go back down, he growls. We go up. Anen grabs Neferura's hand. There's a window in the celestial chamber. Leads to the western aqueduct. You drag her upright. She can't run. Her legs are weak. You lift her instead. Torches flash behind you. You race up the spiral stairs, flames chasing your heels. Arrows ping against the walls. Blood smears the stone behind you, yours or theirs, you don't know. You burst into the celestial chamber, the highest point of the temple. Here murals of stars wrap the walls in gold and blue. A skylight overhead bathes the room in white moonlight. And across the chamber, a grate lies open, a narrow path to freedom. But the priests are already there, 4 of them, and in their hands another girl, no older than Neferura. You freeze. What is this? Tepi growls. They always prepare more than one, Anen whispers, in case a vessel rejects the goddess. You look at her, this second girl, bound, terrified, eyes pleading. You look at Neferura clinging to your neck. You have one chance, one girl you can save. Tepi grabs your arm. We can't fight both lines. We choose. No, you hiss. We end it. You step forward, raising your voice so it echoes like thunder. This right is false. A lie carved in flesh. It does not please Hathor. It pleases only you. The priests sneer. One lifts his blade, but then another voice joins yours. It's Anen. And he begins to chant. Not the words of the womb rite, but older words. Words from before the cult twisted the temple. He chants a hymn to the true Hathor goddess of joy, of music of love freely given. The priests flinch. Others in the chamber, servants, junior acolytes, begin to murmur. Some step back. Doubt is a plague in places like this. And tonight, it spreads fast. Neret bursts into the chamber, bleeding her face, a mask of rage. Silence him. But this time it's Neferura who moves. She breaks free from your grip, grabs the fallen dagger from the floor, and drives it upward into Neret's stomach. The priestess gasps, falls, the chamber stops, and then cracks, Guards hesitate. Acolytes flee. The other girl, still bound, is taken by one of the older priestesses and quietly untied as if the spell has broken. Tepi grabs the child. Time to go. You nod eyes, never leaving the altar. I'll be the last you say. And you are. As the others flee down the aqueduct, you light the scroll of the shattered veil and toss it onto the altar. The flames catch. The chamber fills with fire and smoke, and above it all, you swear you hear a sound, a scream, or a sigh. The temple burns, and so does its secret. The stars are sharp above the dunes. You run beneath them like a hunted animal, barefoot, blood-stained, carrying a child who may never sleep again. Neferura clings to your neck, her arms trembling. Behind you, Tepi carries the second girl, smaller, unconscious. Anan limps beside you, his hand clamped to a fresh wound at his side, breath coming in ragged gasps. The desert opens like a mouth. No roads, no torches, only dust and moonlight and the soft pad of your feet across the earth. You don't stop until your legs collapse. You fall behind a collapsed statue, an ancient figure half buried in sand, its face erased by time. The girls lie between you, wrapped in stolen linen, shaking under the cool desert wind. Tepi watches the horizon. We're not safe yet. They'll send riders, Anan says weakly. Fanatics, survivors. Not many, but enough. You nod. Then we move again before dawn. But you can't. Not yet. Your body is breaking. Your thoughts flicker like dying embers. Still, you can't let go, not until the girls are safe. Not until Dendera is behind you, like a dream you never speak of. Neferura shifts beside you. I killed her, she whispers. You turned to her. You survived her. She looked at me when she died, like she forgave me. You shake your head. She never earned your forgiveness. You owe her nothing. She buries her face into your chest and doesn't reply. The second girl, still nameless, has not spoken once. But in the moonlight, you catch her eyes. They're wide alert, not empty, just waiting. Hours pass in silence. Then a sound. Hooves, far off, but real. Tepi stiffens. They're tracking us. Anan points east. There's an abandoned outpost, 3 miles, built during the Nubian campaign. Might still stand. You hoist Neferura over your shoulder again. We move. You walk until your feet bleed. The girls don't cry. The sun begins to rise. The dunes turn from silver to gold. And at last the outpost appears, a broken rectangle of crumbling stone, perched like a skeleton on a ridge. Inside, the air is cooler. There's a cistern with a trickle of water. No roof, no walls intact. But it's shelter. Tepi checks the path behind. They're closer. One day, maybe less. You turn to Anan. Can you still write? He lifts his hand. It shakes, but he nods. Then write everything. He pulls out parchment. Begins with blood-red ink. You stand watch as he scribbles the names of rituals, diagrams, the signs carved into altar floors, the names of the girls chosen, the passwords to the hidden tunnels, the names of the high priests, the things they made children do. Every word is another stone in the temple's grave. As the sun climbs higher, a shadow falls across the open courtyard. You look up. Neferura is standing there, staring at something you can't see. What is it you ask? She turns to you. She's here. Who? She points to the sky. Hathor. You rise slowly. It's just the sun, child. It's just the morning. No, she says, voice distant. She's watching us. And she's angry. You kneel beside her. You're safe now. But your own voice trembles. Because in your dreams, after the womb chamber burned, you saw something. A woman tall and golden with the head of a cow and a mouth full of broken teeth. Her belly swollen with stars. Her hands stretched wide. She smiled as her priestesses screamed. You saw her, and she saw you. That night the riders come. 2 of them, cloaked in black, moving fast. Tepi spots them first, to the stairs. You and Anand rush the girls below the floorboards into the old grain vault. There in the dust and bone you wait. Above steel clashes, Tepi grunts, then silence. A footstep. A priest drops through the hole above just one. Scarred, maskless. His eyes gleam like oil. I followed the smoke, he says. You step between him and the girls. He smiles. Pain is passage. He lunges, but he doesn't reach you. Anand grabs a rusted blade from the ground and buries it in the man's chest. They fall together. The priest thrashes, then stills. You drag Anand back. His breath is shallow. You didn't have to, you whisper. I did, he says. I brought you to this horror. Let me be part of its end. You press your hand to his chest, and this time it does not rise again. Tepi staggers down the stair after limping, bleeding. One got away. Then we have to move. Now. But before you go, you bury Anand in the vault. Wrap him in the scroll of the shattered veil. You burn it all. Let the fire take what his guilt carried. Then before dawn you ride. You find an old merchant path. You pass through oases, barter with nomads. Tepi poses as your guard. You speak little. At last, after 5 days, Thebes rises from the horizon like a promise kept. Pharaoh's scribes wait. And into their hands you place every scroll, every name, every sin. Neferura never lets go of your hand. Thebes does not welcome you with joy. It receives you with the cold efficiency of a capital trained to ignore suffering. The city is loud, perfumed, humming with the politics of empire. Markets overflow with spices and gold linen and laughter. Children play in the streets. Priests chant beneath awnings to Ra and Thoth and Bastet. No one smells the fire that clung to your skin after the womb chamber burned. No one sees the shadows tucked behind your eyes. You are brought through back corridors of the palace, Neferura held tight in your arms. Tepi, limping, follows with the second girl. Both are bathed now, dressed in simple white, their eyes more steady than before, but the silence still clings to them like smoke. A servant meets you at the hall of petitions. You are to wait, he says, until the vizier calls. You wait for 3 days. You're housed in a high chamber above the Nile, guarded by men in blue sashes who say nothing and never smile. Tepi sharpens his blade daily. The girls barely eat. Anand's name is never spoken, though his absence pulses through every room. On the 4th morning, the vizier appears. His name is Horemheb, a hawk of a man wrapped in lapis-dyed linen, his voice smooth as obsidian. You return, he says, seated behind a gilded table, with children and claims of sacrilege. They're not claims you say, they're facts. I brought proof. He unfurls the scrolls, begins reading. His expression does not change. These are heavy accusations, he says softly. They're true. You accuse high priests, popular temples, names protected by royal decree. I accuse monsters you snap, and I have survivors. His eyes flick to the girls. Children are unreliable witnesses. You step forward. You think they imagined their wombs being measured like cattle. You think they invented the taste of blood during worship. His silence is answer enough. I know what they do, you continue. I saw it. I bled for it. One of your best scribes, Meru, nearly lost his daughter to it. At that, something shifts. He raises a brow. Meru, yes, you say. Neferura is his. He leans back. Meru is the pharaoh's personal translator, trusted since boyhood, and his trust was nearly repaid with his daughter's throat on an altar. The vizier rises. I will take this to the pharaoh. You will wait. You want to scream, but you nod. That night, Neferura wakes you. She's still with me, she whispers. You sit up. In dreams, she says, I see her, Hathor. But she doesn't look like the goddess. She looks like the altar, like the pain. You pull her close. She can't touch you anymore. But she doesn't need to. She already did. The next morning, you are summoned to the royal court. You walk beneath columns taller than trees, flanked by soldiers with golden spears. The palace smells of myrrh and crushed rose, but you feel none of its beauty. You walk toward judgment. The pharaoh sits on a high dais, face painted expression unreadable. Around him, priests, generals, scribes. And Horemheb, the vizier, bows and speaks. This man Kemet of Thebes accuses the temple of Dendera of crimes against flesh and spirit. He claims they defiled children. He claims the goddess was used to mask perversion. A murmur ripples through the chamber. You step forward. I do not claim, you say. I swear it, by my life. The pharaoh raises a hand. Silence. Show him, he says. Horemheb signals. Guards step forward carrying a case. Within it the scrolls, the drawings, the names. The pharaoh begins to read. Minutes pass, then more. You hold your breath. Finally he speaks. What you describe is not new. The room stills. It is not unique to Dendera, he continues. There are whispers from Kom Ombo, from Akhmim, even Abydos. My ancestors may have turned their heads, but I will not. He looks to you. The rites end. Tonight. Horemheb bows. And those responsible they burn, the pharaoh says. Relief floods your chest. But it's short-lived. There is one condition, the pharaoh adds. You will return to Dendera as witness and executioner. You blink what you saw, the altar. You held the child. You know the chambers. It must be you, and it must be public. Let all Egypt see what happens to those who pervert the divine. You hesitate. Tepi steps beside you. We'll go, he says. We finish this. You look at the pharaoh, and the girls, they will live in the palace, he says, as daughters of the court. Their scars will be gold. You bow. You accept. 3 days later, you return to Dendera, but not as prey, as judgment. The temple is emptied, the surviving priests bound. Nerit's name is written on the execution stone. Her body was never found. Some say she died in the fire. Others claim she escaped into the desert pregnant with a curse. You don't care. You light the final torch yourself. Watch the flames crawl up the murals you once studied. You speak the names of the girls aloud. Each one. Even the nameless. Especially the nameless. When it's over, you return to Thebes. But you don't stay. Tepi takes a post near the Sinai border. You hear he teaches soldiers how to read now. Neferura grows into her own name. And you disappear. But sometimes when the wind changes and the river is quiet, the people say they see you walking along the Nile, whispering the names of the forgotten into the reeds. Just to be sure someone remembers. You never intended to return to the desert. After Dendera burned, you vanished into the outer provinces. You walked. The winding paths of old farmer roads, slept beneath fig trees, healed when asked, stayed silent when questioned. Your name passed into whispers and you let it. Let it drift with the reeds and the wind, but fate does not care for rest. It finds you. In the form of a courier, dust-covered pale young sent by one of Horemheb's quiet agents. You read the scroll beneath a baobab tree. 7 lines, sealed in black wax, marked urgent. A tomb has opened west of Abydos, beneath the sands, marked with the symbol of the womb rite. You are requested to confirm if the cult survived. You sit there for hours, the scroll in your hand, the sky darkening to copper. Tepi is far now. Neferura lives in comfort, educated, protected. You haven't seen her in over a year. She writes sometimes. Short letters, careful words, always signed. Still here. But what are you now, if not a witness, so you go. The dig site is 3 days' ride from Abydos, surrounded by low dunes and a few half-collapsed watchtowers. There are no towns nearby, no roads. Only the wind and the pit. You arrive at nightfall. The camp is small. 5 men, 2 women government archaeologists under royal charter. They don't greet you with joy. You're the priest, one asks. You nod. You don't correct them. The lead scholar Menes leads you to the opening, a narrow staircase descending beneath layers of limestone. We thought it was a forgotten granary, he says, until we reached the lower chamber. Any carvings, you ask? Too many, he says grimly. We stopped digging yesterday. Something felt wrong. You light a torch and descend. The stairs smell like salt and copper. The first chamber is harmless dust, broken tools, the scent of old rats. But the second steals your breath. The walls are smooth, too smooth. Sandstone polished to a sheen. Carvings line every surface, small, delicate, almost feminine. Wombs in spirals, eyes in pairs, ankhs with teeth. Symbols you last saw beneath Dendera's altar. Then the phrase etched in red, through pain the veil tears. Through flesh the goddess sings. You recognize it, word for word. It was on the scroll you burned after the rite. The same phrase whispered in the breathless chamber. This is no coincidence. You step deeper. The third chamber is wide circular. In its center is a basin cracked and dry. The edges are scored with grooves, blood channels. You kneel beside them, still stained, still red. Not ancient, fresh enough to glisten when your torch passes over. Who dug here before you, you ask Menes when you rise again. No one, he says. We're the first. He's wrong. Someone was here. You ask to see the camp's records. There aren't many, but there is one strange entry scribbled in the margins of a supply list. Girl seen in distance. White dress. No footprints. You feel the cold return. You ask about the work crew. 5. All accounted for. Except, where's the 6th, you ask? Menace stiffens. There is no 6th. You point to the logbook. He frowns. That's not my handwriting. You close the book. We leave. Now. Menace scoffs. It's just stone priest. Stories etched by frightened men. You don't understand, you say. This isn't old. It's reborn. The right is awakening. Somewhere someone is trying to bring it back. He hesitates, then nods. You return to the lower chamber with one other, a young linguist named Tia. She is quiet, observant. Her eyes catch details you miss. I've seen this pattern before, she says, tracing the spiral carvings. Where in a temple near Amarna, buried during Akhenaten's purge. You stare at the symbol. They were always hiding, across generations, waiting. In the far wall, you find a sealed door. It's marked with 7 eyes, each split at the center. Beneath them, carved deep into the stone womb, yet closed. A waiting voice, a waiting blood. Tia reaches toward the carving. Don't you say sharply. She stops. What is this? It's not a door, you say. It's an altar. And then the ground shifts. A tremor. Small, but real. Sand trickles from the ceiling. You draw back. What was that, she asks. A promise, you say. That night, the wind changes. You sit by the edge of the dig site watching the stars. They feel wrong, misaligned off by a fraction. Tia joins you. Do you think it's still alive, she asks. You don't answer. Instead, you tell her the story. Of Dendera, of Neferura, of the altar and the mirror and the scream that never ends. She listens in silence. When you finish, she asks, why didn't you destroy it all? You stare into the dark. Because it doesn't live in temples, you say. It lives in those who build them. And as long as someone wants to rule by fear, someone will rebuild the altar. She nods, then says something that chills you more than the sand. Then we better learn how to burn it faster next time. You watch the sunrise, and for a moment, you imagine a future where girls sleep without chains. But in your chest, you feel it again. The rhythm, the pulse, not just memory, a calling. You leave the desert behind, but the sand never leaves you. It clings to your robes, settles in your throat, lingers in the folds of your thoughts. The tomb beneath Abydos is sealed now by your own hand. You oversaw the carving of the curse mark on its threshold. Let no voice rise here nor womb open. But curses are only words, and words are weak when belief is strong. And belief you're beginning to understand is the real poison. You travel east to Amarna. It once pulsed with life, the radical capital of a heretic pharaoh Akhenaten, who cast down the gods and raised the sun alone. The city now lies in ruins, bones of a kingdom buried in theological rubble. But scholars have returned. Archaeologists, scribes, religious thinkers, all trying to decipher the strange glyphs left behind when Egypt turned its face from the old gods. You travel with Tia. She rides a mule beside you, veiled from the heat, but eyes sharp. She carries a packet of rubbings from the tomb beneath Abydos, and in her satchel a papyrus marked with a strange circular symbol. The same symbol you saw in Dendera, the same one Neferura once drew in ash during a fever dream. 7 eyes, all staring inward. At Amarna you are welcomed by the priest-scholar Kesenet, an older man with the careful calm of someone who guards dangerous knowledge. You come with fire in your eyes, he says after your arrival. But this city has only ghosts. You hand him the rubbings. He goes pale. These aren't from Amarna, he says. Where did you find them? In a tomb west of Abydos. He hesitates. Do you know what this is? I know it's older than the rite at Dendera. He nods, and deeper. That night he takes you below his study. Beneath the shattered halls of a sun temple, there is a secret vault walled in by the state after Akhenaten's death, now broken open by age. Here lie shelves of forbidden texts, fragments, scrolls burned at the edges, ink made from crushed bone. He brings out one. It's written in blood-red dye. The cult of the voice, he says. A sister sect to Dendera's Order of the Womb. Thought extinguished during the Amarna reforms. Tia leans in. What did they believe that pain creates truth, he replies. That a woman's cry pulled from her deepest flesh was not just worship, but prophecy. They called it Kenun Sekhem, the splitting of the self. You feel your blood chill. He opens the scroll, and there, scrawled on the bottom, prepare the vessel, cut the veil, let the goddess find her tongue again. You look to Tia. It's not over. Kesenet clears his throat. There's more. In recent months, certain visitors have come here under the pretense of translation. They offered donations. They asked strange questions about rites, about purity, about symbolic anatomy. Who were they, you ask? A man and a woman, dressed as scholars. But they asked only about wombs and sound. One left behind a page. He hands it to you. It's a diagram. Clean, precise, drawn in fine ink. It shows a girl's body, overlaid with symbols. Below it in sharp script, she must be opened beneath the stars. Her voice must sing in silence. 7 breaths, 7 cuts. One truth. You feel sick. Where did they go? Kesenet sighs. They said they were heading north, to Tanis. Something about a lost chamber. They called it the listening womb. You leave that night. You travel with speed, now urgency burning in your veins. Tia never asks to turn back. As you ride through the narrow desert pass toward Tanis, she finally speaks. They don't believe in gods. You glance at her. What do you mean, these cults? The rites, the pain, the children. They use Hathor, Isis, Bastet. But it's not belief. It's hunger. You nod slowly. They've turned worship into a tool, you say. Not to serve the gods, but to control men. You stop at a well that morning. While refilling your flasks, you find a small piece of linen caught on the stone. It's fresh. Drawn on it in red ink, a lotus. bound in chains. You show it to Tia. She doesn't speak. She doesn't have to. When you reach Tanis, the city is in festival. The locals prepare for the spring rains, dancing, drinking, laughing, under banners of renewal. But the scholars in the temple district move quietly, avoiding eye contact, closing their scrolls when you pass. You sense it. Something is hiding here. You find the chamber the couple spoke of, the listening womb. It's buried beneath a grain store down a tunnel recently excavated and hastily resealed. You break the seal. The air is warm, the stone freshly cut. Inside the chamber, torches burn low. Scrolls line the walls, and at the center a girl, bound, mouth sewn shut, eyes wide, alive. Tia gasps. You rush forward, cutting the bindings, tearing the threads from her lips with trembling fingers. She sobs silently, but she's breathing. You lift her in your arms, and that's when you hear the voice behind you. You weren't supposed to find her. You turn. The woman from Amarna. She stands calmly, blade in hand. She was the first, the woman says. There are more. There will always be more. The goddess demands her chorus. You don't argue. You don't threaten. You step forward. And Tia drives a chisel into the woman's throat. She dies with no voice at all. The girl's name is Kia. She writes it shakily in charcoal the day after her rescue on a flat stone in the shade of a fig tree. She cannot speak, not yet. Her tongue was not removed, but the threads tore more than skin. Now her mouth opens only in silence, her eyes too wide for her age. But she is alive. And in her survival you find a new purpose. This is no longer about one temple or even one rite. It's about the network. The womb rite is not a cult anymore. It's a system, a hidden empire. And every city, every temple, every noble house where secrecy is prized and obedience is blind may harbor one of its roots. You leave Tanis the next morning, Kia resting between Tia and you in the cart. Her hands stay clenched even in sleep. You do not wake her. You ride south back toward Thebes, not to return home but to dig deeper. You no longer need scrolls. You need names. And to find them, you need someone who understands how the rot spreads. That someone is Horemheb. The vizier meets you in his private quarters draped in mourning black. Word has already reached him of the listening womb and what you found inside. She was 11, you tell him, still had milk teeth. He doesn't look surprised, only tired. How many more, you ask? He sighs. We don't know. But the list grows. The rites are changing, adapting, hiding inside legitimate worship, where he hands you a ledger. Here, in the temple of Ptah, in the cult schools of Memphis, in the trade houses of Heliopolis. We intercepted prayers that weren't prayers. They were instructions coded into hymns, carried by priestesses who thought they were delivering offerings. You turn the pages, symbols you recognize. The red lotus, the bound womb, the spiral eye. It's a secret language, Tia says, leaning over your shoulder. Horemheb nods. We think it's passed by touch initiates, tracing the glyphs onto skin with scented oil. You'd never know unless you were trained to feel it. You look up. You have spies in place. He meets your eyes. I have you. You don't refuse, but you don't accept either. Not yet. That night, Kia has her first nightmare. You hear her across the stone corridor, choking sobs, limbs flailing. You reach her before she screams, press your hand over her mouth, whisper her name. She writes again that morning. She wore a white mask and blue rings on her fingers. You show the note to Horemheb. He freezes. The rings, he says, belong to the house of Setapenra, a noble bloodline, old money. They donate to temples across Lower Egypt. You frown. You think they fund the rite. He nods grimly. If we follow the gold, we find the root. You plan for days, study every document, every shipment, every house that received Setapenra's gifts. And you find it. A shipment of ritual wine, 15 amphora, delivered to the House of Life in Heliopolis, a school for elite scribes. You go with Tia and Kia disguised as traders. You wear the robes of foreign merchants. The guards don't stop you. Inside, the air is heavy with incense. Too heavy. You pass a chamber where girls chant. Their voices are high, breathy, off rhythm, like they're reciting through pain. You stop. One girl is bleeding. Her teacher notices you staring. Private lesson, she says coldly. Tia steps forward, smiling. We're here to donate. The woman hesitates, then smiles back. Follow me. She leads you into a back chamber. You pass walls painted with falcons and papyrus scrolls. But beneath the paint scratched into the plaster, you see them again. The 7 eyes, the spiral womb, the red lotus. You've found it. You just need confirmation. In the final room, the teacher opens a scroll. She reads aloud, a hymn to Thoth. But the words are twisted. Every 7th line shifts, meaning swapping praise for pain, wisdom for obedience. You stop her mid-sentence. Where is the vessel, you ask? Her smile fades. What vessel? The girl you brought from Tanis. I don't know what you mean. You will. You draw your blade. She lunges first, but Tia is faster. The woman falls, cut along the side, bleeding onto the scroll. Tia kicks the desk over. Behind it, a hatch. You open it. Below, in a narrow chamber, 3 girls. Young, chained by the wrist. One has been drugged. The others are dazed. You call for help. Kia appears in the doorway. She sees them. And something in her shifts. She steps forward, no longer hiding. You cut the chains, carry the girls out. Later, as the sun sets, you light the scrolls of the House of Life. They burn easily. You stand in the flames' glow, watching the glyphs curl into ash. One root cut, but not the last. In the distance, bells ring. Another rite has begun. Somewhere else. The house of Setapenra sits atop a bluff overlooking the Nile. It does not resemble a temple. It resembles a monument, white limestone polished to mirror-sheen columns, carved with falcons and suns' gardens, blooming with imported roses, and guards in bronze scale who speak only to names they already know. No one is invited. No one is expected. No one asks questions. It is not a house, fortress. And now it is your next step. You arrive before dusk under the guise of an archivist. Tia is at your side, veiled as a musician. Kia remains in Thebes, guarded by Horemheb's men. She's begun to speak again, barely audible, but words nonetheless. Her last message before you left was simple. They smell like perfume and copper. You find both in the air, before you even cross the threshold. The steward who greets you is a slender man with a hawk tattoo behind his ear. "You're early," he says without looking up. "Good," you reply. He leads you through an arched colonnade into the inner sanctum. The floors are smooth alabaster. No blood, no chains, just wealth. Enough to hide any horror beneath layers of silk and honey. You're escorted into the library. There, at a long cedar table, sits Neneset Setepenra, matriarch of the house. Silver-haired eyes lined with coal hands dripping with turquoise and lapis rings. Her fingers rest on a scroll as though she were caressing a child. "You've come from Heliopolis," she says without introduction. "Yes." "You've seen the girls?" "Yes." She smiles. "I expected you sooner." You hesitate. "You expected me." She lifts a small object from the table. It's the obsidian scarab, the same one Nerit gave you in Dendera. Your breath halts. "I thought that was lost in the fire." "It wasn't," Neneset says. "You gave it back when you entered the goddess's chamber. Everything after that was witnessed." You feel Tia stiffen beside you. Your blade is near, but not close enough. "I know who you are," Kemet Neneset says calmly. "I know what you did. I know what you burned. And I'll burn this too." She laughs. "You can't. The house of Setepenra is not Dendera. We don't light fires. We light futures." She stands slowly and gestures toward the far wall. A door opens. Behind it, a girl, 12 maybe, dressed in white, unmarked, smiling. She's the next voice, Neneset says, but she will not scream. She will sing. You feel sick. Tia speaks first. "You think that makes it better? I think it makes it last." You draw your dagger. Neneset does not flinch. "Kill me," she says. "Another will rise. We are blood. We are lineage. You cannot erase birthrights with steel." Tia lunges, but something stops her. A sound. From behind you. Clapping. You turn. From the shadows steps a man, tall, robed, scarred across the chin. Your breath catches. You know that face. Panefer, the high priest of Dendera. Dead, or so you thought. "I never died," he says, reading your thoughts. "Nerit did. But I walked away. Fire doesn't touch those chosen." Tia raises her blade. He lifts his hand, and from the other rooms, more figures emerge. 4, 5, 6, all in robes of gold and black. This is not a temple. This is a court, and you've walked into its center. Neneset speaks again. "We don't conduct rites here. Not anymore. This is where we choose where the rites go." Panefer nods. "We trained the woman you killed in Tanis, the priestess in Memphis, the translator in Abydos. You burned them, but you missed the roots. We are not flowers. We are the soil." You glance at the girl. She watches you, not afraid, curious. Does she know you ask? Neneset shrugs. Not yet. But she will. "We don't break them here. We mold them. It's cleaner, more refined." Tia whispers, We have no way out. You nod. I know. You take a step forward and lift your blade, but not toward Neneset, toward the girl. Gasps erupt. Neneset screams. No, she's the only thing you care about, you say. Your future. Your vessel. Your hand shakes. But the dagger stays high. The girl doesn't move. I'll end it before it begins, you hiss. No, says a voice behind you. Soft. Small. The girl. She steps forward and takes your hand. No more, she says. Everyone stops. Even Panifer. She speaks again. They said I would be worshipped, but you worship yourselves. She looks at Neneset. You don't want me to be a goddess. You want me to be your prisoner. Neneset staggers back. The girl turns to you and nods. You lower the blade, and everything erupts. Tia throws her dagger. It strikes a guard in the throat. You grab the girl and run. You crash through scroll shelves across burning carpets out into the gardens. Behind you, shouts rise. Blades clash. Someone lights a torch. You flee into the city. You don't look back. Hours later, hidden in a grain storehouse, the girl speaks again. My name is Satsobek, she says. It means daughter of the crocodile. You smile through your bloodied lips. That's a good name. You don't return to Thebes immediately. Instead, you move through the fringes of the Nile Delta, hiding in reed villages and farmhouses, always watching for the glint of gold thread or the soft echo of ceremonial bells in the distance. The cult does not die easily. You knew that. You've always known that. But this time you don't run alone. Satsobek walks beside you. She speaks little in the beginning. But what she does say is precise, measured, intentional. I know what I was meant to be, she tells you as you cross a flooded causeway. But I know what I am now. You ask her what changed her mind, why she didn't freeze, why she didn't fold into the role they carved out for her. She looks at you and says, because I saw Kia. It was in a vision, she claims. A girl with torn lips and a steady heart. Not crying, not begging, just surviving. And in that vision, Satsobek says she saw the truth that surviving was louder than any right. At night, she speaks to the farmers quietly, almost shyly at first. But the moment they listen, they don't stop. She tells them what the temples are hiding, how gold flows with blood, how purity has become performance, and how the gods are being used as masks for violence. And the people believe her, because her voice carries something the priests forgot how to use: truth. By the time you reach Thebes again, word has already traveled ahead of you. They call her the mouth of the river. Tia meets you at the city gates. She hugs you tightly, then looks at Satsobek with something like awe. She's changed the air, Tia says. People no longer whisper. They speak, loudly. Horemheb brings you into his private chamber that evening. He looks older, tired, but not defeated. She's a danger, he says softly. To the cult and to the court. You stiffen. She's a child. She's a symbol, he corrects. And symbols are unpredictable. She's the reason they're unraveling. He leans back. That's why they'll try to kill her. And they do. The first attempt comes 2 nights later, a poison slipped into her ink. She doesn't drink it. A boy from the kitchens warns you in time. The second is a knife beneath the mat in her sleeping quarters. The third, an entire chamber rigged to collapse. But you're ready each time. And with every failed attempt, her legend grows. She begins speaking in the palace court, quietly, eloquently, with facts. She does not exaggerate. She does not shout. She simply tells. And when she tells, the pharaoh listens. So do the wives of nobles, the guards, the servants. And soon something unthinkable happens. Priests begin to defect. One by one they step forward. Men and women who were part of the womb rite, or who knew and said nothing, come to confess. Some beg for forgiveness. Others come simply to speak the truth. They confirm what you already knew, that the cult was never just one group. It was an architecture, a blueprint of domination, rewritten every generation. Each time it hid behind new gods, new masks, new names. But the foundation never changed. Pain, control, silence. Until now. Now a girl speaks against it, and the walls begin to crack. But the cult is not dead yet. In a final act of desperation, they strike not at Satsobek, but at Kia. You hear the news as dawn breaks. A fire in the stables, 2 guards dead, and Kia missing. Tia finds a strand of white cloth caught on the courtyard wall. It smells of perfume and copper. You know what it means. Satsobek reads it too. They've taken her to finish the ritual, she says flatly. No, you say. They wouldn't dare. They would, she replies. Because I'm no longer the vessel. You ride that night. You, Tia and Satsobek. Back to where it began. Not Dendera, not Tanis, but a chamber beneath Thebes itself, long abandoned, sealed during the reign of Hatshepsut, only recently unearthed by temple expansion. A perfect place to finish what they started, hidden in plain sight. You find the door half open, and beyond it chanting. Low, steady, you draw your blade. Tia raises her staff. Satsobek steps beside you. You burst in together. The chamber is small, circular. Braziers burn blue. Kia lies at the center bound, but not yet touched. Around her 3 figures in black robes. One steps forward. Panifer, scarred, bleeding, but not dead. Again. You always follow the fire, he sneers. But fire consumes all, even the innocent. Let her go, you growl. He smiles and steps aside. You freeze, because behind Kia, standing in the shadows, is Neneset Setepenra. But she no longer wears jewelry, no fine silks, just a white shroud. Her face is bare, and her hands drip with ink. She steps forward and presses her palm to Kia's forehead and begins to chant. Satsobek does not wait. She rushes forward, no fear, no hesitation. And in her hand, not a blade but a scroll, she unfurls it and recites loudly, powerfully, a hymn to truth, not to a god, not to a temple, but to voice itself. Panifer flinches. The flames in the braziers flicker. Neneset hesitates. Satsobek continues. Her voice echoes like thunder. You step forward. You cut Kia free. She falls into your arms, breathing, alive. The room breaks. The robes drop their blades. One flees. One weeps. Panifer charges. Tia ends him. Quietly. Permanently. Neneset tries to finish her chant, but her voice cracks. And then it breaks. And when she opens her mouth again, there is no sound. Only silence. Satsobek lowers the scroll, and the chamber goes still. They seal the chamber with salt and fire. The same day. By Pharaoh's decree, the rites are ended not in whispers, not in scrolls, but in public. Temple bells are rung across Thebes, not for worship, but for mourning. The bells toll not for gods, but for girls, for every name etched into stone and everyone lost to silence. This time there are no secret cremations, no masked funerals. The city watches. The people see. You return to the palace with Kia in your arms. She does not speak for days, but when she does, her first word is home. Satsobek is changed too. She speaks less, thinks more, walks with the bearing of someone older than her bones. She does not smile easily. But when she does, it's not the smile of a child, it's the calm of someone who knows. Word spreads faster than fire. The house of Setapenra is dismantled room by room, contract by contract. Their assets are seized, their priests arrested. The records of their donations to temples and learning houses are carved onto public obelisks for all to see. Nothing is hidden anymore. Horemheb himself oversees the inquests. I've seen many things, he tells you one evening, but never a god so thoroughly exorcised. You say nothing, because you're not sure she is gone. Even now, with Panifer dead, and Neneset stripped of her voice, you feel her shadow. Not the goddess herself, Hathor, as she once was, goddess of joy and music and life, but the thing her name became. The thing the cult built. The version that fed on girls and called it devotion. That version may never truly die. But perhaps it can be outlived. You spend the following weeks helping others speak. Girls from Heliopolis, from Tanis, from Com Ombo. Dozens emerge from hidden rooms, from false apprenticeships, from healing houses where pain was practiced like medicine. You help them write their names, tell their truths, let them say what was once unspeakable. Satsobek becomes a voice not just of survival, but of power. She is called Daughter of the River now. No longer a vessel, never again a sacrifice. Instead of hymns, she teaches stories. And when she speaks, nobles kneel. You, though, you do not stay in Thebes. Once the trials end, once the temples are cleansed, once Kia has a room of her own, and a guard who never sleeps, you disappear. No one sees you leave. But Satsobek finds a note tucked beneath her writing tablet. When the world forgets, remind them. When the world silences, speak. When the world bows to cruelty, masked as faith, burn the mask. Signed simply, Kemet. They say you traveled south. Some whisper you joined a monastic order. Others claim they saw you teaching in small towns, explaining how to detect the signs, the patterns, the language of pain when it hides behind gold. They say you speak little, but you listen deeply. and that you still carry the same blade. One day, years later, Satsobek returns to Dendera, not as a prisoner, as a sovereign voice. The temple has been abandoned, overgrown, crumbling. But she does not enter to restore it. She enters to close it, stone by stone. She finds the chamber where the mirror altar once stood. She finds the corridor where Neferura once lay. She finds the last sigil of the womb rite hidden beneath a basin of dried myrrh, and she burns it, alone, quietly, finally. Later, standing in the courtyard beneath the goddess's empty gaze, she speaks into the wind, "I was supposed to be your echo. Now I'm your end." No one hears her, except the wind, and that is enough. You've followed a long, harrowing journey tonight, one that moved through fire, through shadows, through chambers never meant to be found. You've walked side by side with Kemet, with Tia, with Satsobek, and the broken children who taught us what strength really is. You've seen the rites, the masks, the cruelty hidden behind divine names. And perhaps now you understand that evil doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in the voice of tradition. Sometimes it sings. But it can be named. And once it is named, it can be ended. The story you heard tonight was not about gods or monsters. It was about people, the ones who hid the truth, and the ones brave enough to uncover it. So now, as your breath slows and your body relaxes beneath warm blankets and soft light, remember this: the darkness was real, but so was the resistance. The pain was deep, but the voices were deeper. And even in the deepest halls of horror, someone always lit a torch. Sleep now, knowing the world did not surrender. It remembered. And that is how healing begins.